In the 1980s, tax accounting firms would have tax professionals and audit personnel visiting the clients for corporate tax consulting, which costed a lot of time and energy. Wouldn't it be better if there was a computer system in place that could gather information first? This would reduce a lot of time. So that's where ExperTAXsm came into the picture. Let us take a look at what it was all about. Hi, my name is Anjum Khandeshi, and on the behalf of my team, I would love to introduce everyone to ExperTAXsm, an expert system for corporate tax planning. This system was designed by Coopers and Lybrand for the corporate tax accrual and planning function. At the time, articles about expert systems, especially in the field of accounting and tax, were plenty. There was a growing degree of interest in the technology. But what exactly is an expert system? Well, the bookish definition of an expert system is a system that handles real world, complex problems that require an expert's interpretation and solves these problems using a computer model of expert human reasoning, reaching the same conclusions that an expert would reach if faced with a comparable problem. Tax accrual is an auditing task that requires specialized training and considerable time. Many accounting firms developed questionnaires, forms, and checklists to facilitate the gathering of the information. An audit manager would then conduct the analysis, and a tax manager would review it to identify tax planning issues and opportunities. Only if those were significant, more experienced personnel were involved. The problem with these questionnaires was that they were long, complicated documents, and tax professionals were concerned that those questions only simplified and standardized a very complex process. Audit staff that were assigned to this process were concerned only with the tax accrual computation and were not aware of the nuances of the information and planning. This information was then analyzed by both the audit and the tax managers, which was a very time consuming process. The solution to this was the ExperTAXsm, which was introduced as an intelligent questionnaire which could guide the user through the process, asking only those questions that were relevant to the client's situation and was capable of sifting through issues that required clarification. It only requested additional information when it was needed. It was also capable of explaining to the user why a question was being asked and why the response was relevant. It kept track of all of the relevant questions that were still unanswered and also documented all of the questions that were asked and the answers that were given. Its features included actively guiding the staff through the gathering process, efficiently directing to the relevant issues, and pointing out the specific importance of the question. It also analyzed and synthesized the information to identify the relevant issues. This uncovered and described most of the basic tax accrual and planning issues so that only the higher level issues were left to the experts, which gave us a major time advantage. ExperTAXsm consists of three main components: an expert system shell, also called as the Q shell, the knowledge base, and the knowledge base maintenance system. The Q shelf itself was constructed of the inference engine and the user interface.
Hi, my name is Sanket, and I would like to elaborate on the components of this expert tax system. The first component we will be looking at is the inference engine. This inference engine is a forward chaining and rule-based system. Forward chaining is an approach which is useful when there can be multiple conclusions drawn from the given facts and data. It is rule-based because it makes use of the 1000 rules it has built in to draw the conclusions. This process takes into account the data stored in the frames, facts, and the rule interpreter. So the rule interpreter uses the provided facts and the frames to infer something. It does so by comparing the left-hand side, that is the if clause in an if-then statement, with the facts. If a match is found, it fires that rule and the necessary changes are made. While doing so, it keeps a track of the continuously changing inference chain. It displays whatever conclusions are drawn and the reasoning associated with the conclusion for better explanation. But it is not just one way. It permits the user to interrupt or resume as well as backtrack the process if there is need of altering the information previously submitted as well. This makes it extremely flexible. It looks like a pretty smart system, right? So what is the user interface like? Well, it is an interactive UI with 3 windows providing all the information. The top window displays the section, the middle window displays the active question, and the bottom window displays the clarification message to provide more insight and reasoning for the user. The user must navigate through these questions by answering them in a set of nested menus, that is, multiple questions in different menus back to back. Once all the questions are answered, a set of conclusions are drawn. The system displays these conclusions to the user through a printed report that it generates at the end of the procedure. This is the report that the expert personnel use further.
Hi, I'm Fatima. Let's have a look at the next component of ExperTAX, that is the knowledge base. The knowledge base stores information as frames, and each frame can include several rules. Information can be attached to each frame. Information like how and when to use the frame, or to determine what should happen next, or to simply display or print something. Now, as we've seen in the inference engine, the system deals with two kinds of frames: question frames and issue frames. A typical question frame includes attributes like the actual question that is to be asked. So, as seen in the example, it asks for a particular method for tax purposes. Next comes the list of all possible answers for the question, which in this case are the specific charge off and the reserve method. As you can see in the reserve method, some follow-up questions that are the preconditions needed are included. Question frame also includes its specific rules, and lastly, the why message to incur why a particular answer is better. The issue frames are relatively simpler. They have a rule attribute that is the condition to be tested, and based on the result, a display attribute that either appears on the screen or on a printed report. Now let's have a look at the knowledge base maintenance system. It is an independent software system which is designed to update, modify, and expand the knowledge base. It includes three components: a frame editor, a logic evaluator, and a rule interaction display. The frame editor permits the user to state the different components of a frame and also to edit the information entered for consistency and completeness. The logic evaluator checks for possible conflicts in logic between the rules in the frame being edited and the rules contained in currently valid frames. If an inconsistency is discovered, the evaluator suggests editorial actions that would resolve the situation. The rule interaction display allows the user to dynamically observe all the frames affected by changes in the frame being edited, which helps the user to better visualize the changes.
Good day, everyone. My name is Anay Kulkarni. So now that we've received a basic understanding of what ExperTAX and its components are, let us move on to the topic of knowledge acquisition. In this phase, for tuning the Q shell and populating the knowledge base, a careful selection of experts took place. Observing the then current tax accrual planning process revealed several sources of expertise, which is broken down into 4 groups. The first group consists of audit and tax specialists. They design and maintain the support tools which are used, like questionnaires. Next come the engagement auditors who gather data for the process. Then the managers and partners who review this data and issue recommendations. And finally, the tax auditors and consultants who specialize in various complex areas of the tax planning process and are regularly used as expert resources by managers and partners on engagements. All of these experts were involved in the knowledge acquisition phase. Even with all of these measures, as is with any system, there are issues with this one as well. Let me tell you about 3 major issues with this system. First issue is the identification of experts. It is illogical to attempt to develop an expert system if recognized expertise does not exist. However, identifying experts in the accounting field is a difficult task. It depends on many support mechanisms like questionnaires, informal and formal consultations, and texts, which together contribute to identifying the skills of a person. But these may make it difficult to identify the true czars of this field. The second major issue is knowledge base management. It might be a simple task to think about, but when you consider the specialized expertise required as well as the interactive growth of the system, it starts to get complicated. All of these factors have to be continuously evaluated and updated. The third major issue is security and system distribution. This system is no longer a basic computer software which adds numbers, but can also have the accumulated knowledge of an entire firm. With this in mind, security is of utmost importance and deprecation is possible if it is not kept up to date. Corrections against unauthorized usage also need to be properly gauged. So, in conclusion, tax accrual is an audit task that requires not only specialized training but also a considerable amount of time. The entire process is highly tedious and is time bound. ExperTAX, a knowledge based expert system, supports this corporate tax accrual and planning process. It provides guidance and advice to auditors and tax specialists in preparing the tax accrual for financial statement purposes, as well as identifying relevant issues for tax planning, tax compliance, and tax service purposes. So, with this, we finish our presentation. We hope you enjoyed it and have a good day.